SuperTalk Mississippi Media production.
Never take your heart health for granted. For just $99, you can get a complete screening and know your risks. Call 601-249-5198 to schedule your Happy Healthy Heart screening at Southwest Mississippi Regional Medical Center.
This show was previously recorded.
MidDays with Gerard Gibert is on the air. MidDays with Gerard Gibert is powered by C-Spire. Power your home or business with C-Spire Fiber. To learn more, visit supertalk.fm/C-Spire. C-Spire Fiber powers SuperTalk Mississippi. Get ready to go beyond the headlines and join a meaningful conversation with people from around the state. Hello. You're listening to MidDays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Everyone, and welcome to MidDays SuperTalk Mississippi. I'm your host, Gerard Gibert, along with Rhino in the Element Wealth Studio, guiding you through the middle of your day with facts, fodder, and fine music on this
Friday Eve.
Man, yeah, and a delightful one it is out there. I enjoyed a quick trip down to Macomb, Mississippi, Pike County, addressing the Macomb Rotary Club. Great folks down there. Really enjoyed being with them and talking a little bit about stuff going on. It was really good. Good folks. And one thing I noticed, Rhino, on the way down I-55 there, I spoke in New Albany back right after the ice storm, about a month after the ice storm or so. And I noted all the down trees along the route as you get kind of in the northern tier of 55 there. And then, of course, all the way through New Albany, that route through there. Well, there's a section, we had the tornadoes that came through not so long ago. There's a section in Lincoln County, which was hit pretty hard. Lincoln, Lawrence, and Lamar counties hit hard by the recent outbreak. And just as tornadoes do, it's a stretch, not very large. Pine trees are just twisted up and down and completely topped. Just nothing but stalks standing up from the ground. Just amazing the power of those storms. But what an interesting contrast you would expect to see in Mississippi, where you got down trees from an ice storm that came through in the northern counties. And then you got the down trees from tornado that came through in the southwest counties.
I don't know. It might be argued that you'd only see that in Mississippi.
That's true. Where we kind of have all the climates in one state, right? Man, oh, man. And it was just
we're also one of those states that's perfectly positioned to usually get ice instead of snow.
That's right, which is more devastating typically. I think the difference was the area affected by the ice was much larger, of course, than tornadoes are, than the wind effect of the tornadoes. But the ice, pretty much you see the entire tree just kind of falling down. But with the tornado, it's like it's been ripped off. And it was just a small stretch. You know how there's some areas of 55 where you got a pretty wide median, and it's usually planted. It's treed up and other foliage. And it was just that small stretch right there at Brookhaven, Lincoln County. Man, I hope everybody is recovering. I've seen some reports on that. I know some folks are still without their homes, of course. Their homes were completely devastated, and they're trying to manage that situation, still taking donations, I believe. So, man, let's pray that the destructive weather, at least, is out of here for a while. Delightful today for sure. It's more like typical May weather. That's one of my favorite months of the year. I think most people would agree with that. May and October, similar in terms of the temperature range. You get those big high pressures bright blue skies, low humidity. So enjoy.
And the northern half of the Magnolia State today can brag and say that they are among the nicest weather in the country.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So
according to the weather people.
How about that? Well, let's enjoy it. Let's celebrate it. So appreciate Dave filling in. Wow, what'd you let everything go all hell in a handbasket, as they say, in a short 48 hours? Stuff happening on the national scene, stuff happening, of course, here in the state with the governor saying, yep, we don't need this special session. I know he was on with Richard yesterday. That has actually made some national news because in focus, of course, is redrawing the congressional districts. I think it's fair to say that on the national landscape, the special session called by the governor to reconfigure the Supreme Court districts, that's more of an issue that has some applicability within our state, not on the national stage. The national stage, in the national political landscape, the concern more, of course, is about what does this redistricting look like as it relates to the United States House of Representatives. Now, in the state of Mississippi, we have 4 districts, as you know, although our Constitution thinks we have 5, at least vis-a-vis the ballot measure process. Who did that, man? Golly. Oh, this will never change. This is permanent, right? But I digress. So that's what's going on. Now, the governor, I believe, came out yesterday, Rhino, and he was actually on Fox News yesterday. Like I said, some degree of national news because we are one of those states that could, based on control of our legislature by Republicans, could redo these maps in such a way that Congressman Benny Thompson would have to return to Mississippi. And he would no longer represent a district that pretty much is a shoo-in, the way it is drawn now for him. And I just want to once again appeal to the people that continue to support him and send him to Washington. He is not in your best interest. You would do much better. In fact, he harms you. He would do better if he went bye-bye.
Remind folks that he voted against the pumps while his own constituents were underwater.
Incredible. That's just unfathomable. But let's send him home, and I promise you would get better. You know what they would have a hard time understanding? You and I talked about this, and we've actually posed this question to Representative Robert Johnson last week. He's the House Minority Leader, a Democrat from Adams County. And I know they have a hard time comprehending it because they've been told all their life Republicans hate you. You would get better representation, and I believe the quality of your life would improve, and that in Mississippi, if your Congressman Benny Thompson were replaced with a high-quality Republican candidate and representative. I do believe that. And they would say, no, that's not possible. Republicans hate us. They're racist. They're this, they're that, right? All the stuff that they define us as. We got to make an effective appeal and deliver a message that resonates with them. I go back once again, I know I'm repeating myself, to the president who I think handled it perfectly when he ran the first time. What do you got to lose? Try something different. It ain't working out very well for you. These people don't care about you. They care about power. And the only thing they ever promise, but never works out as promised, is I'm going to take their money and I'm going to give it to you. And I'm going to skim off the top while I do it. That's pretty much their entire policy agenda, which is misguided and misleading at a minimum. So what do you got to lose? I do think we ought to pursue this, but the governor said between now and the 2027 elections. So it's not clear whether or not that means something would get done. He'd call them back. Let's redraw it. What we do with the fact that we've already had primaries, that's a legal question. It's over my pay grade. I've heard numerous opinions and slants on that. I don't know what the truth is. on that at this point. I'm not sure anybody does. And it's one of those things that's in the so-called gray area, right, that at this point we're not really sure. But that's what the governor said, that, yeah, I'm going to take on this redistricting project. Now, I believe that the president could, I think, apply some pressure to the governor. And I think the governor has a great relationship with the president. And if the president does that, the governor just may see fit to go ahead and get that done now, before the midterms. But my guess is, knowing the governor, that he's going to make sure that there is some path, some legal, mechanical way to, I guess, negate the primaries we've had and recontest those. Because otherwise the president wouldn't really benefit from it in terms of the remaining 2 years in his term. I think he's wanting to make sure that, and all seats count, that the Republicans maintain control of the House for his remaining 2 years after elections this November. We shall see. Interesting issue for sure. Coming right back in the Element Wealth studio, Gordon Fellows on at 11:05. He's president of the Mississippi Bankers Association, because it looks like we got us a new Fed chair. Stay with us.
This show was previously, if you're feeling anxious about this show was previously recorded.
This segment of Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
Middays with Gerard.
Good for America. Good for fans of justice and truth. Good for us.
SuperTalk Mississippi.
This is what we stand for.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Wealth studio. Just again, passing on what the governor said with respect to redistricting. Said, just to clarify, I said I expect lawmakers to redraw congressional lines between now, in all caps, and 2027 elections, ! I also expect them to redraw legislative and Supreme Court lines between now, and 2027 elections. And there's a good article at supertalk.fm that explains all this, that was published on our site yesterday. Appreciate our news team for doing that. So that's what the governor says. I don't know what that means, Rhino, in terms of timing. I just don't know. And I don't know that he's going to tip his hand on that. But between now and 2027 elections, according to my calculation, that's about 18 months. So that we have an 18-month window in which he could, implore. I say that because it could happen during the 2027 session, because that's within that time frame. He could call a special session outside of the official session between now and the official session when they come back in January, or after they sine die next year and sometime in March. Between then. But then you got the midterms, which don't come up till 28, so you'd have plenty of time. The question is he considering something now that would alter what we have coming up in the midterms? And that means perhaps the primaries are nullified and we figure out some legal way to do a redo on that, on the primaries. If there is such a thing. I'm not sure.
I mean, it would basically just be calling special elections, and it would basically be a whole new election day, and it'd be a headache. It could be done.
Yeah.
But I think realistically, the governor's not going to call a special session unless he thinks there's enough interest from the legislature to actually get it done.
I agree.
And I don't think there's enough interest from the legislature, because just look at the laundry list of things that didn't get done this year, and you can put at least part of the blame for that on this notion of, well, push it to next year and we can campaign on it.
Yeah, I hear you, and I agree with that, and I think that's a very plausible theory. It's just not sure. Now, the one who's probably made the most noise about it is Shad White. He was also on the program with Lucian yesterday, I believe, and he, of course, the state auditor, and he's demanding that the lines be redrawn right now. He's pretty much come out and said that. Andy Gibson, of course, has announced that he is a candidate for governor. He has, leaned into it, but I don't know, Rhino, if he's just demanded, and been quite as firm and as clear on, let's get back in there and redraw the lines now.
Well, his initial stance that he put out on social media was to use caution. Right.
That's right. You're right.
And then after the governor broke the news yesterday on mornings here on SuperTalk, I don't know if it was after or right before, but the timing was a bit funny to me because it looks like it just gave him just enough cover to come out in favor of redistricting without really having to worry about it because it's likely not going to happen this year.
I believe that's all right. It's likely that is where we stand. Now, we should, of course, point out, and I know you guys talked about it yesterday, but the governor has rescinded the special session. He's canceled it, essentially. That was scheduled for next Wednesday.
We talked about that earlier this week.
We did, yeah, to redraw the district lines, Supreme Court district lines. So no need to do that because the court ruled, no, your lines are good. So no need to get back under the dome. I'm kind of disappointed. I really wanted to see the House in the old Capitol. I thought that would have been kind of neat. So that's going on there. On the C-Spire text line, I know it's early, but do you think, this is from Nathan, a President Trump endorsement would automatically push someone to the front in Mississippi? I would say that certainly the president's endorsement carries a lot of weight. We've seen some situations where it certainly was a differentiator in some races in the country and in some where it wasn't. I
think it all comes down to how the polling looks.
Yeah.
I don't know that Trump has enough swing, even in the Magnolia State, to pull somebody from the back of the pack to the front of the pack.
Agree.
But if there are, say, 2-3 front runners that are really close, yeah, his nod would definitely be enough to push one out in front of a close 1 or 2.
I agree. My personal opinion is he won't. He won't endorse anybody in a primary. I think there are likely to be a number of strong Republican candidates that are Trump supporters. I just don't see him coming out and, I guess, interfering and inserting himself into that. And that's what you've seen in races across the country, where there is someone that clearly is, in his view, kind of behind another in a race. Usually it's a race where there's 2, right? But look at Texas. That's a situation. U.S. Senate race we're talking about. 2 Republican candidates, including the incumbent John Cornyn and the Attorney General Ken Paxton. It was thought and it was rumored that the president was going to endorse one of them and then request that the other exit the race. And the reason was not because he thought one was necessarily better than the other. It was because they wanted there not to be a runoff, which is, when is that scheduled? I thought it was this month. There's a runoff on the Republican side. On the Democrat side, there's not. James Tallarico is the nominee, and he's a strong candidate. And the president's, I think, position there is, I want to clear the field and get a candidate, not have a runoff, and let them immediately start focusing on running against Tallarico, the Democrat nominee, in the general coming up. The runoff, I thought, was this month for some reason in Texas. But
I hadn't been keeping up with it that closely.
Yeah. But
the reason it's not that he was worried about them necessarily beating each other up in the runoff, it's just that they're spending money on the runoff that could be spent on the general.
Yeah, that's right.
That was the motivation, was money.
Yeah, totally agree. But And to direct that money towards campaigning against the Democrat as opposed to the other Republican in the race. But the point is, ultimately, the president elected not to endorse. And so they just fought it out, and they're in a runoff now. So we'll see what happens on that. But looks like, okay, so the USA Today I'm looking at has an article about that. And
yeah, the runoff's on May 26th.
Okay, I knew it was coming up this month, so a couple of weeks. But thus far, he really hasn't endorsed anybody, just looking at the latest there. Not endorsed either, but John Cornyn, the incumbent, is this just pandering or what, Rhino? It was announced yesterday. He, of course, a U.S. Senator, and he's got some power here to rename a U.S. highway after the president. Oh, my gosh. Oh, geez. So crazy. I just find that almost comical. That I think is what people, once again, is one of those things people dislike about politics. Clearly that's pandering, that's placating, is all that is. I thought this was also an interesting piece as well, and it's up in New York. You know, the nutcase mom, Donnie, Noah Syndergaard, he's a ex-pitcher for the New York Mets. He's calling him a lunatic. And he's telling the members of his former team to distance themselves with, quote, socialist mayor. They think that that's what's causing their struggles on the diamond. And so Syndergaard says, you need to distance yourself from this guy. He is a nutcase, and that's why you guys can't play baseball. So, remember the New York Post had the front page. They're so good at this. Not too long ago, where they are highlighting the Mets' troubles on the field. And the big headline was, Curse of the Mambino. And the Mets mascot, the guy with the big baseball head, you know, he's putting a hat on Mondami with that stupid smile. That's crazy. We're going to step aside for a break with the Village People bumping us out of this segment. Coming right back in the Element Well studio.
This show was
Hello, I'm John. You're in the state.
This show was previously recorded.
Gerard Gibert. He keeps his classified documents right where they belong. Inside a Journey record jacket from the 1980s. Gerard Gibert, SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. We are in the Element Well studio. It's Gordon Fellows, president of the Mississippi Bankers Association, on MidDays. After the top of the hour break, this is on the C Spire text line. Have you heard about this, Rhino? North Panola High School was vandalized very badly by at least 18 individuals. The pictures look very bad. How the heck do 18 people get together and say, hey, let's go destroy the school, and everyone agrees? It's really sad. 18 people. What's going on there?
My first thought was a senior prank that got out of hand.
Yep.
Because I remember my senior year, we had a whole not the whole class, but a large chunk of the senior class show up on the campus with sidewalk chalk and wrote the class year and a whole bunch of other graffiti all over the place. And when we inevitably had our big parade to the school on the first day of school, as was part of our senior year traditions, we were all rounded up by the principal out in the little grassy area between the parking lots with a stern talking to about how some of the graffiti was offensive.
That's interesting.
But that was a senior prank. So I can imagine this was likely a senior prank that mob mentality took over, and everybody knows that the average IQ of a mob is half of its dumbest member.
I hadn't heard that. But no, I'm afraid you're right. I hate to hear that. Appreciate you sharing that, Nathan. Yeah, is this not another situation where obviously this starts at the house? And the fact that you got people of this age that think this is okay, I'm not saying it's perfect, but in general, I bet something's missing at home. That's just my thoughts on that.
On the C-Spire text line, Ricky in Aberdeen, some unknown seniors at Aberdeen High School stole all the bells around 1980. They were returned later. I
got you. Well, that's more of a prank, though, Ricky, than it is. You're not damaging or destroying. I got to tell you, back in my days in Oxford, in college, it was customary for some folks at Ole Miss to go over and locate the live Bulldog mascot. And it was kind of all prearranged, honestly, as part of the big Egg Bowl game, which used to be played in Jackson, Memorial Stadium. And they would trade, back and forth on stuff like that. But that's more of a prank. I mean, the dog was fine. It was safe. It was not going to be harmed. Whether or not you could pull that off today, probably not, honestly.
If we had fired off the fire extinguishers and tossed the principal's office, we likely would have gotten more than a stern talking to. But since we used sidewalk chalk that could wash off pretty easy, it was just a stern talking to.
But that's different than just destruction, intentional destruction. And the problem is, some people don't know where to draw the line, right? And they cross that line. No, this is a prank. No, that's destruction. That's a problem. Jerry from Tupelo said WTVA said this morning they were ex-students and most of them were 18 and over. Well, then they ought to either be in school or working. It just makes me mad, obviously. But I still believe if you took every one of those individuals...
It's also going to make it a lot easier to charge them.
That's just true. And you dug into their home life, I bet you'd find a problem. I really do believe that. But this all cost us money and of course, just the inconvenience and the harm and the cost associated with it. It's just bad. Hate to hear that. On the C-Spire text line, what does it say? When I graduated in 2018, the principal gave us a list of things they would approve of. We had to only use items listed on that list. Sure. I mean, part of your little, you can do this, but not do that. Okay, I get it. Just playing along with the prank.
That just feels so against the idea of a senior prank. Here's a list of approved ways you can prank us, guys.
That's true. It kind of takes the excitement out of it, right? Way back when I was in high school, says Joey the trucker, we were in the front doors of our school, but the next morning the principal had a bucket of hot water and soap, and we all had to clean it up. I love it. That's great. Well, when I was a freshman, now, when I went to high school at St. Joseph here in Jackson, it was 9 through 12. So you're a freshman in the 9th grade. That's changed somewhat, right? Most of the time, I think most middle schools are 7, 8, 9, 8, 9, and then 10, 11, 12.
In a lot of situations,
yeah. So it was 9 through 12. And, of course, you were just sitting ducks for the seniors to abuse when you're in the 9th grade. So we had a kind of a area of the high school, big hallway, and on one side was the administrative office. It's the principal's office. On the other side was the cafeteria. But just beyond that, there was kind of a big sort of special classroom, and then across from that, adjacent to the cafeteria, if you can imagine, were bathrooms. And then double doors to go into the gym. That's kind of the way that wing of the high school was designed. And when I was in the 9th grade, the seniors liked to push the 9th graders into the girls' bathroom. When you were just walking by into the gym and you wouldn't know, unsuspecting, there'd be a couple of seniors behind you, and the door one of them would fling the door open, the other would push you in there. And so they get me one day, and standing out in the hall was our principal, Father Tarsi. I'll never forget. And guys, Father Tarsi, at the end of the day when you make the announcements, morning and end of the day, right? You got the speakers in every classroom. They're sitting with a mic. I think most people can identify. They're sitting with a mic there in the administrative office. And usually it's just like the administrator making the announcements. But this day, the day after, Tarsi gets on there. And whenever he got on there, he was mad about something. And I'm telling you, he could get on that mic. And actually, what I meant to say was he could say whatever he wanted to say without a mic, and you could hear it throughout the high school because he's yelling. And he gets on there, he says, if I see another boy in the girls' bathroom, they're going to pay the price for that. Isn't that right, Mr. Gibert? That's what he said. I'm like, I didn't walk in the girls' bathroom, but that's the only part he saw is me walking out. Because as soon as they pushed you, they'd haul butt into the gym. Oh, my gosh. Isn't that right? Yes, Father Tarsi, I won't go in the girls' bathroom. Of course, today, if you did that, it'd be a problem. Today, we invite them in, right? Oh, my gosh.
It would depend on whether or not you were wearing a skirt as to whether or not you got in trouble or you got praised.
That just hit me. Think about how against the rules that was, and unthinkable and taboo and punishable. Now we invite them in. I'm laughing about it because it's insane. It's sick. It's crazy. And we're putting tampons and women's menstrual products in the boys' bathroom. Thus the moniker Tampon Tim, the governor of the Great Lakes state of Minnesota, because he signed off on such policies, right? Like in the 4th grade. Oh, my gosh. The world is truly upside down. After listening to your presentation at Rotary in Macomb, Mississippi yesterday, I'm convinced that Skynet will take control of the world eventually. So, Rhino, when I speak to civic groups, I like to dive into technology and the future and how it might impact life. And sure, I understand we've got to tread lightly, and there are concerns. Some of those are valid, some aren't. One thing I know is if we cede the high ground of technology, particularly quantum computing and artificial intelligence, to China, where the president happens to be today, and the president knows this very well. As I like to say in my speeches, we're all going to be wearing blue pajamas and doing the goose step to the Chinese flag. I mean, literally, that's what's at stake here. So I know there are lots of concerns about invasion of privacy with all this digital technology. But have you noticed, Rhino, that the people who complain the most about that blast their entire life on the Internet? Like, where do you think that's going?
And the worst offenders use AI to generate images and memes to try to prove their point.
That's a good point. That's so true. We're going to take a little break right here in the Element Well studio. Once again, Gordon Fellows joins us at 11:05.
There's only 3 things that show: taxes, death, and trouble. Oh, this I know, baby.
This show was previously recorded.
We interrupt this program.
Gerard Gibert.
Here we go.
This is huge.
Huge news. Huge news. Huge. You need to listen to this.
MidDays with Gerard. SuperTalk Mississippi.
On the C Spire text line, my mom tells a story about Greenville High School once hanging the Greenwood High School, maybe the sign, what do they mean there? From, I think they left the word out, from the uprights way back in the day, definitely crossing a major line.
Maybe the mascot?
Mascot, yeah, possibly. Yeah, tell us what that is. That's on the 662. Appreciate that. Yeah, so, yeah, harmless pranks, right? And it seems like we don't think about harmless pranks anymore. It's why has it got to be destructive? It's ridiculous. What did Mo said? Yeah, they were adult former students. We had somebody else tell us that as well. Jerry from Tupelo said that was on the news. It's a shame because, like you said, as seniors, it's customary to have a little fun like that, and you should be able to do that without harming anything, stealing anything, damaging anything, hurting anybody. It's pretty simple. But we can't do that anymore. We had, when I was senior class president in my high school, customary to be involved in hanging the flag every day on the flagpole, which was out front of my high school. We all parked in the back. There was kind of a front. That was for the teachers and guests. They had a circular drive with the flag in the middle of it, and that was right by the main entrance to the school. And so the day that first day that folks that come in and visit your school for accreditation, I don't remember the name of the organization, but they do this Southern School Accreditation or something like that. But they're the ones that come in, mark you up and say, yeah, okay, you're good to go. You're accredited. Well, that particular day, because it was out front, nobody could see the flagpole unless they drove to the front, right? Well, I had this idea. I got, as you can imagine, put up to it. Instead of hanging the flag that day with all these dignitaries from this accreditation group coming in, I hung Schlitz beer cans. I'm telling on myself here. And oh my gosh, the principal called me into the office, and let me tell you what he did. He wore me out, and then when I was leaving, he said, hey, Gerard, personally, I thought it was pretty funny. I don't like these people. You're not surprised at that, are you? Oh, my gosh. I said, okay, I'm not going to have him call my parents and tell them what a bad boy I was. I put the beer cans on the flagpole. Oh, my God. Harmless, though, right? Harmless. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that was the flag, Good grief. On the C Spire text line, is Tate delaying the redistricting to put himself in position to run for that seat? No, I don't think so whatsoever. I just think it's a controversial issue, and I think at the heart of that is the fact that we've had our primaries. And that would raise a stink. My guess is even if there's some provision in our law that kind of tacitly allows that, somebody's going to sue. And chaos would ensue. And this could be a situation that, I don't know, goes to our Supreme Court, and maybe they find some federal law being violated, like they always try to do, and take it to the Supreme Court, the U.S. Supreme Court. Who knows? And that just ties the whole thing up and creates chaos. So I'm quite sure those are the discussions happening behind the scenes. And let's see, on the C Spire text line, since the Mississippi Supreme Court lines are good, we'll finally name someone to fill the vacancies. It's been several months. It's a good question. I don't know. But since the court has said, nope, your districts are fine the way they are, that is in the governor's job jar right now. True, totally true. I'm afraid, this is Louis from the 662, I'm afraid that we have a growing population of people who have no interest in excelling in life. They are perfectly content with existing as long as they are taken care of by the government. So for them, their perfect representative is Benny Thompson. I actually agree with you, Louis. I think there are a lot of people, I like to say, they're satisfied with mediocrity. And that's a shame. And I would say, once again, Rhino, and folks may disagree with this, it starts in the home. Starts in the home. You're not being inspired by adults while you're growing up to do great things, mainly because they didn't, and nor did the generation before them. So we've seen this going on now for about, 50, 60 years? And it just propagates. It continues. But yet, are these not the same people certainly their representatives are, that complain about the people who do seek to excel because they got rich doing it, right? They get mad about that. And so, to that end, now you got what appears to be, have you seen this guy? Guys, a new 2028 poll shows that the front runners are Marco Rubio and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who now has legislation that is sponsored by a number of Democrats that would increase the minimum wage to $25. In other words, you're not going to produce any more for society. We're just going to pay you more and squeeze employers and make it almost impossible for them to operate their business, to even be a viable business. I know that's second-order thinking that they simply don't understand and don't want to. But it's politically popular, right? Unbelievable. The other thing is, as we've talked about before, 1.8% of the workers in this country earn the minimum wage. Coming right back after Fox News and SuperTalk News.
This was previously recorded.
Middays with Gerard Gibert is on the air. Middays with Gerard Gibert is powered by C-Spire. Power your home or business with C-Spire Fiber. To learn more, visit supertalk.fm/C-Spire. C-Spire Fiber powers SuperTalk Mississippi. Get ready to go beyond the headlines and join a meaningful conversation with people from around the state. You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Middays, SuperTalk Mississippi. I'm your host, Gerard Gibert, along with Rhino in the Element Wealth Studio, guiding you through the middle of your day with facts, fodder, and fine music. Morning there, Rhino.
Howdy, howdy.
All right, so we, those who are listening over the air, they are hearing us on the stations not covering the Ole Miss baseball game. They're playing in the SEC tournament today, facing Missouri. I think in the second inning, up by a home run earlier in the game, and that's it. We're all buckled up, ready to go. We got Don Redmond, spokesman for AAA Mississippi, on at 10:35 today. He'll talk about the Memorial Day travel weekend and what we can expect with respect to gasoline prices and just overall travel expectations heading into the summer. I guess Memorial Day, official start of summer.
A lot of people consider it that, yeah.
Seems like just yesterday we were talking about ice storms moving through here, right? And then we've got Robert Johnson. An encore performance, shall we say. Coming on at 11:05. He, of course, a member of the Mississippi House of Representatives. He's the minority leader, represents District 94, which incorporates Adams, Franklin, and Jefferson counties. Vice Chair, House State Affairs Committee. We'll get his take on the governor calling off the special session, the entire redistricting discussion, and I've never really thought, Rhino, that Representative Johnson aligns with the far left wing of the Democrat Party, but I am curious as to what he thinks, for example, about Zoran Mamdani, the mayor of New York City. He's going all in on this New York City-owned grocery store situation. And you probably saw that he has really ignited lots of controversial discussion, shall we say, in his reference to a statement made by President Ronald Reagan many years ago, where he said the 9 most frightening words in the English language, or I'm here from the government and I'm from the government, and I'm here to help. And Mamdani says he disagrees with the president on that the most frightening words, 9 words, are, I may boo-boo on this, I don't have the quote in front of me, but I worked hard all day and I can't afford to feed my family. Something to that effect is what he said. And, geez. So his solution to that, of course, is to stand up grocery stores that are actually owned by the government. Because their solution to everything is more government. And he actually said that. I mean, he made references to his belief that the government can address and solve a number of societal problems. He really doesn't make any bones about that. That's what he believes. Boy. And what's really amazing to me, I guess it's what I pay attention to as much as anything, is he made this statement as part of a speech, and he's surrounded by like-minded people. And when that came out of his mouth about, I worked all day and I can't afford to feed my family, all those people are just shaking their head in agreement. Yeah, right. I'm wanting to say, why aren't you working so you can feed your family? But again, looking to government to solve these problems. Okay, so you need to improve your financial situation. Government is not the solution to that. That's what is missing in that discussion. You know, the other thing, of course, missing in that discussion, Rhino, which, of course, requires some second-order thinking. Were it not for the private sector and the incentives afforded by capitalism, there wouldn't be squat in the grocery store. Oh, wait, let me back up. There wouldn't be a grocery store. I don't think they've yet figured that out. I just don't think they have. And
well, they're the kind of people that think chocolate milk comes from brown cows.
Oh, my gosh. Well, it's just amazing how clueless people are about this sort of stuff. And he's doubling down. He's allocated $70 million to develop a grocery store in each of the city's boroughs. Yeah, I worked all day and can't feed my family. Right. That was his exact quote. I found it. So he says, when government understands its purpose is serving the very working people that it is left behind time and again, it can make a difference in the most pressing struggles facing our city today. Translation, let me take some of those people's money and give it to them people whilst I skim off the top and receive some sort of personal, twisted, perverted gain in the process. That's what's missing. Oh, man. More government is not the solution here, though that is what Zoran Mamdani asserts. So I'm just curious as to where Representative Johnson fits on this spectrum. If he believes that this is a role of government, that we need more government. Would he support such a move here in the state of Mississippi, for example? Just curious about that. But he's coming on at 11:05. And then we had a late addition I saw this morning from our content director. I believe we've got Commissioner DeKeither Stamps coming on at 12:20. He's going to discuss the SEARUC. That's a conference going on for public service commissioners. That should be an interesting discussion as well. And by the way, speaking of New York City and now these full-fledged Marxist policies that I think are going to harm the city, already we're seeing notable affluent residents of the city say, I'm out of here. And Mondami's all mad at them, and Hochul's all mad at them as well. You ran them off with your stupid policies. Our capital city of Jackson, a recent report indicates that the population has fallen to 145,995, making it the fastest shrinking city in the U.S. with a population of greater than 50,000. This is all done by professional demographers. They rank Jackson as 198 out of 250 cities on Geography of Prosperity Index, the Geography of Prosperity Index, citing, are you shocked at this? Governance issues. So the demographer, an individual known as Bradley Sherman, says, I noted strong civic pride among residents in recent positive downtown investment by a developer. And the gist of his analysis is the uphill battle the city has in expanding its economy. The city lost 3,766 residents from 2021 to 22, over a year, a net loss of 3,700 people. So really not a good trend for Mississippi's capital city. He said, I have to tell you, downtown Jackson is pretty jarring. I took the train from Memphis, walked through downtown. Everyone who I met there was kind, courteous, generous. But the first thing I noticed was desolation. I feel like during my time there, I saw maybe 10 people on the streets. Coming right back in the Element Wealth studio.
This show was previously recorded.
Hey, this is Bob, and if you're like...
This show was previously recorded.
This segment of Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
We're rolling. Middays with Gerard Gibert.
What? This is so awesome.
On SuperTalk Mississippi.
We're back with you in the Element Wealth studio. Appreciate you joining us today. So this report from this demographer about the city of Jackson says the people that I did see were a couple of police officers, some government workers, and a TV reporter. So they're just nobody around. Of course, so many of the structures, the storefronts, offices, and so forth are just empty. They're not occupied. And that's the reason. You don't see many vehicles either.
And then the ones that are occupied tend to close up shop.
Yeah.
6, 7 o'clock at night.
Yeah, so the drag on Jackson, he says, this demographer comes primarily from governance and foresight. The city scored 19.5 out of 100, putting it at a rank of 231st of 250, way below the national average and pulling the composite score down, of course. So, no doubt, we have work to do there. I do think we have improved leadership in the city with respect to Senator Horn, who's now Mayor Horn. But I'll say again that I really believe that the problem in the city of Jackson, most of the problems are rooted in the procurement system and policies used by the capital city. Honestly, it's a discriminatory process, and they have engaged in that practice for over 30 years. It prioritizes vendors, partners of goods and services to the city based on what they call minority participation. It actually is racism, in my view. How is that any different other than it's procurement versus drawing out districts for public office where the Supreme Court says you can't do that with a racial bent to it? How is that any different? We're engaged.
It's all based on the misguided notion that you can defeat racism with racism.
100%. That's exactly right. And that's exactly what's going on. So I've maintained for years that I believe the problems that exist in the city are largely rooted in that practice of prioritizing vendors based on their race. There's so much focus on that. Let me see if I can get some money to these vendors because of their race, and then they take victory laps about it. You know what I'm saying? So look at me and all the money that we spend here at the city on these minority contractors. Not a focus on the outcomes and the results produced by said contractors. And that's not, I know somebody out there could misinterpret what I'm saying. That's not saying there aren't qualified minority-owned business contractors. Of course there are. But that shouldn't be a major factor in procurement decisions and contract awards. But it is.
If you value that criteria more than saving tax dollars, then you are not being responsible with the tax dollars.
It's exactly right. We end up, the result of those policies, our costs are at a premium. Our spending is at a premium. And often we get inferior goods and services because the quality was very secondary to the minority participation. And this is going on across the country. This is not unique to Jackson, but it's largely found, of course, in Democrat-run cities. And most of them, as a result, shambles. It's something that Joe Biden instituted. There's always been a problem with that at the federal government, but he ratcheted it up significantly. And it wasn't just in procurement. It was in, as you know, in hiring and promotion and compensation and job assignments. He made it clear. Yeah, it's got to be included in all policy, all decision-making. You got to consider race, gender. That's crazy. That's just not right. And it doesn't achieve the best outcomes. Anytime you're forcing this diversity and inclusion practice, anytime you're forcing that and it doesn't happen organically, you're not getting the best outcomes. That's just a fact. Meanwhile, out in California, while we're talking about it, a championship track meet forces a trans athlete to share the top podium spot with a female. A.B. Hernandez won the long jump by over a foot, high jump by 2 inches, and triple jump by nearly 2 feet. Because it's a...
Dude in a dress.
It's just crazy. Man, oh man. So, how can this male be excited about winning this championship over girls? That just makes no sense to me. What kind of person thinks that that's something to be proud of? And then you can clearly look at this individual and know that they're a male. So this is something that California permits. And I'm looking at the award ceremony with him squarely on the top box there, receiving the top medal. It's just unbelievable. Now, I do remember that the president said that if you engage in these practices of allowing men to play in women's sports, that you're going to lose some funding. And after this occurred last week, the president on his Truth Social platform said California, under the leadership of radical left Democrat Gavin Newsom, continues to illegally allow men to play in women's sports. This week, a transition male athlete at a major event won everything and is now qualified to compete in the state finals. As a male, he was less than average as a competitor. As a female, this transition person is practically unbeatable. In all caps, this is not fair and totally demeaning to women and girls. Bravo, Mr. President. Agree. So he says that large-scale federal funding will be held back, maybe permanently, if the state of California doesn't adhere to his executive order, which says you can't allow men, boys, to compete against women. It's incredible how upside down this country is over this craziness with respect to dudes in dresses competing against females, and just the whole radical gender ideology that has swept the country. Also, a track team in the North Carolina State Championship had an opportunity to three-peat, but they lost out because a runner was disqualified for raising their hand as they're running. I'm not sure what the problem is with that, but apparently there's some rule. And I'm looking at a photo of it. He's kind of got his hand raised, not fully, elbow bent. What's that all about?
I didn't dig too far into it, but from what I did read, it's a time penalty that's added to your race time if you are deemed to have participated in unsportsmanlike conduct. That's
considered. I wondered if that's what the deal was. I mean, there's no physical advantage you're getting running the race in that respect, no. Right? You know what's crazy is?
The claim was that the person was taunting because they were showing where they were going to put their next ring.
I see that now, the way they've got their hand raised. Okay. So, DQ for that, but all the dudes in dresses you want, come on and compete, right? That's what's upside down to me.
I don't know if it was a DQ or if it was just time added to their time, which meant they no longer won.
Okay. The report I saw said that runner was disqualified.
They might have disqualified him.
Which
I was
of
under
course,
the impression it was a time penalty.
Either way, they failed to three-peat as a result. Coming right back with Don Redman with AAA Mississippi.
This show was previously recorded.
Attention, adoring fans!
It's time for
Middays with Gerard Gibert on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Trailers for sale or rent, rooms to let 50 cents. No phone, no pool, no pets. I ain't got no cigarettes, but 2 hours of push and broom buys an 8 by 12 4-bit room. I'm a man of means by no means, king of the road.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Wealth Studio. It's our pleasure to welcome now Don Redman, spokesman for AAA Mississippi. Hey, Don.
Hey, how are you doing? Great lead in tune. Like it.
Awesome. So what do you think about the current travel situation with the Memorial Day weekend approaching?
I think that we're going to stay with our forecast, which is a new record number of people overall, about 45 million Americans traveling for the holiday. A lot of the plans were booked before the war with Iran, and though the gas prices are higher, I think that when people look at their overall travel budget or their vacation budget, gasoline price overall doesn't play that big of a role. Now, that's not to say if these prices continue, and right now we're looking at a statewide average about $4 a gallon, into the summer, well into the summer, that may absolutely have an impact once we talk about the Thanksgiving and Christmas travel, because the long-term impact on disposable income of a family definitely will be eroded if these high prices continue. And, it's hard to say what's going to happen right now. I know we're constantly asked, what will the prices be by July? I don't even know what the price is going to be at the end of the day. I mean, it's that volatile. But we've been seeing, at least for the past week, prices hovering around $4 a gallon, kind of steady. But again, most people who plan this vacation have everything is pretty much baked in. And some of our AAA members from Mississippi like going to Orlando this time, as well as Tennessee, Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge, those area, and even Branson, Missouri, some are popular destinations. But typically wherever there's water, that's where people are going to be heading. So Florida's a big draw.
Yeah, absolutely. So overall, is your organization not expecting any significant decrease in the Memorial holiday travel as a result of the spike in the price of gas?
Yeah, I mean, that's what we have found historically. Just the gas price alone doesn't determine whether people travel or not, but it's how they feel about their individual income, how they feel about their personal economy. And I think that, and we have examples where we saw, and one of the most extreme examples that I could call immediately was after the terrorist attack of 9/11. Gasoline was virtually $1 a gallon had fallen, but nobody was traveling. No one felt secure about traveling or feeling safe about the economy. There's a lot of things. So even you got prices, and I think after you remove taxes at that time in Mississippi, it was like 50 cents a gallon. Nobody was traveling. So just gas prices alone don't determine that, but it does have an impact long term. So if we now, we've gone through 2 months, almost 2.5 months now into higher gas prices, I think we're still going to be in it, even if oil prices drop dramatically overnight. It's still going to take at least 30 days for it to work through the gas pump, if you will. So these prices are going to be with us into the summer. The big question is going to be, how will that change travel plans for November and December?
Okay. Yeah, that makes total sense. So are you seeing any major price adjustments in some of the other aspects of travel? Lodging, for example, restaurants, food. Is that something you guys also track for your members and share?
We do, from car rental to hotels, restaurants as well, just trying to get the overall. Most of that has stayed relatively flat, but again, as the inflationary pressures get placed on food items and other things, you'll start seeing that reflected in those prices. That's why I think, again, people have been booking for this Memorial Day travel for the past 60 days or longer. They're going to feel the cushion. But for those who plan to travel for 4th of July, I think then you're really going to see an uptick in prices for hotel rooms, dining out, those type of things. So what we typically see when these higher prices start occurring, people are still going to take their vacation, but they may not stay as long, or maybe they're looking for discount hotels. They may even brown bag it rather than going out to eat on their road trip. So with this corporate culture of you use your vacation or lose it, people are going to use it, but they just do different. I would expect our state parks to really get a good workout for this summer. People they want to get out, but maybe not travel as far and look at more economical recreation opportunities such that the state parks afford.
Yeah, Makes sense. So looks like maybe, Don, we'll see folks opt for more economical options to still enjoy their vacation, take their time off, travel, and so forth, but just figure out a way to work all the expense in their budget.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking for discounts at hotels, restaurants, those type of things. Yeah. And, maybe not stay as long. Instead of 4 nights, maybe stay 3 nights. That
makes total sense. So what about here in Mississippi? How do things change with respect to visitors coming into our state, traveling into our state? What happens with Memorial Day and thereafter, and what can they expect when they come here?
Yeah, I think for Memorial Day that weekend, you can still expect good crowds. For those areas that are popular for tourists and out-of-towners to come in, I'm thinking immediately of the Gulf Coast and other areas, your golf courses, those resort areas are still going to be really in good shape for Memorial Day. I think the bigger concern will be how will it look in July with the continued higher prices, and I expect these prices will carry with us into July. And then we might see a little change. And if these prices, if we're looking at $4 a gallon or higher, July, August, I think we'll certainly see diminished number of people who are going to make those tourism trips in the fall. I still think, say, cruising the coast will probably still be very popular. But, there may be other destinations or other events people are just curbing back depending on the long-term effect of these higher gas prices.
Yeah. And something else, of course, that's occurring is the price of travel by air has spiked considerably as well. Do you think, Don, that means more people will opt to travel via traditional vehicles on the road rather than flying?
Yeah, I think there's no doubt about it. I mean, we're looking at, for this holiday, a record number of people flying. And these are, again, people who probably booked their flights a while back.
Yeah.
Those are probably getting a sticker shock right now who are trying to book in the near future. So, yeah, there's no doubt, except for those who may be planning to go on Alaskan cruises, which are very popular with our AAA members. Now, most of them have booked those cruises back in December. And they'd be heading out, but so there's not really a driving option, a viable driving option. But everyone else who's maybe planning to go to other destinations who are going to fly there may very well consider driving instead and trying. It's the more economic, the more convenient way to travel.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I've seen some reports, Don, other than the issue of the price of crude oil spiking. And, of course, that being reflected at the price in the pump, which causes pain for travelers, that potential shortages of motor oil, which vehicles need, certainly combustion engines need. Are you familiar with this? Have you seen anything about that?
I have to tell you, this is new to me. I have not heard that there's a big concern of potential motor oil. I'm not familiar with that issue. I'm definitely research that because that's a big surprise there. I mean, I know that jet fuel and diesel are big issues. Diesel is almost $2 more a gallon than it was this time last year, and it was one of the leading exports in the U.S. When we talk about what the U.S. exports, diesel is one of the top of the list. It's a big demand in Europe as well as other places around the world. So, but diesel, that's going to affect everything we're paying for. But if you talk about motor oil now being an issue with that, and it's usually, again, these are things that are made usually in the winter where gasoline production is off. So it's like, okay, let's make jet fuel, let's make diesel fuel, let's make motor oil, those type of things. So that's very interesting that might be an issue. I had to look at that. Yeah,
and I came across it last week. I know it's kind of obscure. It hadn't gotten the great deal of attention, of course, at the price at the pump always does. But I just checked it out. Literally 2 hours ago, a major news outlet says, quote, auto industry braces for motor oil shortage. So, I mean, it's just more.
The hits keep coming.
Yeah, I know exactly. So now, who knows? What's going to happen? But it just says 3 rounds of price increases over 2.5 months is unheard of, and the magnitude is stunning. I've been in this business since 1979. I've never seen anything like it. and that's the founder of Petroleum Trends International. Interesting. So
that's fascinating.
Maybe something to check out.
Yeah, definitely no, because that's a concern for all of our membership.
Absolutely.
One of the things that we honor with our members is having quality auto repair, including oil change. So yeah,
sure. Jeez. Appreciate it, Don. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, I always enjoy it. Thank you.
Appreciate you, Don Redmond, spokesman, AAA Mississippi. Coming right back.
This show was previously recorded.
Polyupa, Mississippi.
This show was previously recorded.
Come on.
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
All right, we are back
on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It is Middays from the Element Wealth Studio. You know, one of the things that folks are concerned about with respect to elections, the deep fakes being used. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people in this country that just can't tell the difference between a legitimately produced ad and a deep fake political ad, especially the older folks, the seniors in our country that aren't as accustomed to staring at their phones and their screens all day and sort of learning that discernment. So Representative Thomas Massey, we got some text on that today. He, of course, is fighting for his seat in the great Commonwealth of Kentucky, the Bluegrass State, today. At the polls, the president has really pulled out all the stops to defeat him. And Secretary of War Pete Hegseth traveled to Kentucky for a rally supporting his opponent in opposition, of course, to Representative Massey. But he raised the alarm about AI-generated attack ads that falsely showed him in a romantic scenario with two liberal Democratic stars. He warned that it could mislead and rattle older voters. He's holding hands with Representatives Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Ilhan Omar, checking into a hotel under the tagline, Thomas Massey caught in a throuple. He says it reeks of desperation, but they're holding the older generation, hoping the older generation won't realize it's an AI-generated lie. Wow. So expect more and more of this, honestly. I heard this morning about a lawsuit that was filed by an individual who does not have counsel. There's I think a Latin or a Greek or some sort of technical legal term for that when you're participating in a lawsuit and you're not represented by a bona fide lawyer. Can't remember the name of it.
Pro se.
That's it. Per se.
Pro se.
Spell it.
P-R-O-S-E.
Okay. What's the derivative of that?
It's Latin, translates to roughly for oneself or for one's
pro se.
Behalf.
Yes. All right. So, but this particular lawsuit, this individual is using AI to generate a mountain. Well, the original suit, the complaint, and then a bunch of follow-on pleadings and other documents. And, of course, it costs money to deal with that on the defendant's side in this particular case. You can't just dismiss it. You have a right to take
Unless
somebody
you use
to court.
AI to fight back.
That's exactly right, and I wondered the same thing. But, you know, that's the thing about our system. It's a beautiful system in that it's available to everyone, right? If you've got a grievance,
I'm just picturing a procedural court drama, and the prosecution stands up, pulls out their phone, and presses play, and it's just, We, the prosecution. And then the defense stands up and holds up their phone, presses play. We, the defense.
The problem is, even though I certainly respect and appreciate your right, again, to seek some sort of mitigation, some sort of compensation, action, whatever the case may be, depending on the suit itself, if you feel like you've been done wrongly. But on the other hand, if you're a defendant, you got to pay your way out no matter what. That's what I don't like. Maybe
that's the main reason every major corporation and many small businesses have legal counsel on staff or on retainer.
Absolutely, but that still costs money.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's costing you, whether it's third party, external, or it's internal. But you know what I'm saying is, it doesn't matter if the facts are on your side, if you did absolutely nothing. Many times, certainly in a business perspective, your insurer is going to get involved. And they're likely to recommend a settlement just to avoid the cost associated with a protracted suit. And the other side knows we can just keep dragging this thing out, investing a little money at it, and finally they'll come to their senses and they'll say, Uncle, and they'll write a check. I don't like that aspect of it. And
welcome to what happens when the legal system is infected with liberalism for the last 7 decades.
Well, that's true. That's absolutely true. And it's largely anti-business. It really is. And that's a problem as well. I mean, it depends on the court, the judge, the jury, and so forth. But in general, they tend to lean more towards individuals if there's an individual suit against a business. Fox News, SuperTalk News, then Representative Robert Johnson.
This show was previously recorded.
A SuperTalk Mississippi Media production.